Hey guys, this is Josh from Grapplezilla, and today we're going to talk about the issue of a wrestler switching countries. So basically, a wrestler who was born in country A or wrestled for country A and then went to country B in world competition, regional competition, or the Olympics. Is it fair? Is it not fair, etc. So in this Olympics, we saw a ton of Russian wrestlers, Dagestani wrestlers, Ossetians, um, wrestle for other countries, as well as we started seeing a lot of Americans do it too. And it poses an interesting question, which is this fair? Is this like what's going on here? So I'm going to discuss that, and I have quite a few notes I've written here, so I'm going to sometimes read these notes, etc. But let's get down to it. So first, we got to talk about the history. Now, if we talk about just wrestling, there have been a lot of good wrestlers who have switched countries. For example, Matt Jafari from the U.S. He was Iranian and he switched to the U.S. Now, he did come to the U.S. very young. This has to be noticed. So he didn't really have a chance to wrestle in the U.S. You had Daniel Gali, who came from Nigeria to Canada. He took gold in Sydney as well as a world championship the year before. You have Givis Asari from Georgia to Canada, won silver in Atlanta. You have Nasir Gajanov from Macedonia to USSR. He actually went the other way. Sometimes it was you go from the USSR to Macedonia, but this is in this time he went from Macedonia to USSR. Of course, you have Frank Chamizo who went from Cuba to Italy. We all know Chamizo, amazing wrestler. Arawat Sabaju from the USSR to Germany, Artur Tamazov, as I like to say, from the USSR, Russia to Uzbekistan. He was a very, very, very good wrestler. Unfortunately, got caught for steroids, etc. But one of my favorite heavyweight wrestlers of all time. You have Kheta Gazimov, born in Russia, in Ossetia, but he wrestled for Azerbaijan during his competitive years. And actually, I think he's coaching Azerbaijan now. Amazing wrestler, amazing person. You have Stevan Micic he's American and wrestled for Serbia, won the world championship last year. Amazing wrestler. He couldn't make the Olympics due to a knee injury, etc. You have Ismail Musakayev from Russia. He was wrestling in Russia, and then he went to wrestle for the Hungarian national team. Wins a world championship. He was in the last Olympics, but he didn't fare. He didn't get medal. Magomed Ramazanov. Uh, he was a Russian Dagestani wrestler, went to Bulgaria, and actually he won the gold medal. One of my favorite wrestlers. That's a big one too. You have also Ahmed Tajudinov from Russia to Bahrain. That's another one. He won the Worlds and the Olympics, and he looks like he's the next guy to take the torch after Sadulayev, should Sadulayev not come back to compete again as well. You have also Adam Batirov, the brother of the famous Mavlit Batirov. So Adam Batirov is from Russia and Dagestan, and basically he went to also wrestle in Bahrain. You have Ashton Matua, who is an American, and he went to wrestle for Nigeria. He was in the Olympics as well. Great wrestler. Um, you have Miles Nazem Amin, who was an American. He also went to wrestle from the U.S. to wrestle for actually San Marino, very small country in Europe. And you have Sebastian Rivera from the US, and he went to wrestle in Puerto Rico. And you have many others, right? But these are some ones just for you to emphasize that it's not just Russians; it's now also Americans who have done it, etc. And you always had this. So, what are the reasons that these guys move? Okay, this is why do they move to another country? So a lot of times it could be internal politics within their own country. So, for example, in the case of Russia, maybe Russia is not allowed to compete inside a games. So what happens is that they'll go and either if they can't sometimes even wrestle for like a neutral representation, they'll go wrestle for another country. There's also sometimes favoritism over one athlete to another within the actual wrestling community within a country. So sometimes a coach will come in, he'll become the national coach, and he will completely put all the emphasis into one athlete when another athlete feels, hey man, like I need to be looked after too because I need a fair chance. It's very common, a favoritism, not enough funding in the wrestling program. So that one's a reason why people can move either from or to um, a country. For example, let's say you take Amine, and there's no funding within the San Marino wrestling organization, the national wrestling budget compared to, of course, the U.S. But when he goes there, he can really help San Marino maybe build up that wrestling within the youth and the grassroots movement, and get some interest in there, and some more money coming into wrestling itself. Um, a lot of times people move because there's a disagreement with the country of origin or the coaching staff. So example, maybe there was a war that happened. You know, a lot of these countries have different religious minorities inside there, and maybe, for example, also cultural minorities. Maybe someone had a problem, let's say, for example, with Russia attacking Georgia or Ukraine, etc., or other things. It doesn't have to be just Russia, but and because of that, they decide not to wrestle for that country anymore because they don't see themselves as that person. Uh, the possibility of being able to qualify to a major competition, that's a major reason that guys go. So for example, let's say you have a top wrestler that inside his country, in a tier one wrestling country, is they're just not, no one's able to beat them. But the second and third level wrestlers, maybe even the fifth level wrestler, they might have a citizenship somewhere else, and going as a naturalized athlete for another country gives them the ability to qualify to a major competition and thus go to other championship bouts, such as the World Championship and the Olympics. Um, and a lot of times, the naturalized nation will offer them, um, I would say, money or benefits in order to move because they know that it can help grow. Like, for example, let's say we take Greece and they take Darren Karugliev. Okay, now Greece does have good wrestling, but it's nowhere near Darren Karugliev's wrestling. So when Karugliev comes to wrestle for Greece, it's a great chance to help grow the sport of wrestling within Greece. Should he medal, and of course he's gonna have entertaining matches. The guy's a beast, you know. It can also help the national sports budget get allotted to the wrestling program as well. So, for example, let's say once again Greece, I would imagine that soccer or football, as you would say in Europe, has a lot of money going into from the national budget. Maybe wrestling doesn't. Okay, so a guy like Koryguev coming and winning a bronze medal and coming in order to build the program there is definitely going to help their argument to get a percentage of that national budget every year. And in a lot of these countries, it's very difficult to get it off the main sports. Okay, because the main sports are culturalized, and in smaller countries as well, it's just not a lot of ability for other sports to come in. Um, Also, going to another country gives a wrestler a better chance to make it financially, as a lot of times their host country offers very little chance to make a living wrestling. These guys give their all in order to be a national level wrestler. They study. A lot of these guys are proper coaches, etc. And then they go and they get, for example, peanuts a month, like $200, $300 a month. On top, they need to eat. They need to have everything, all the massage, etc., to do with being a professional athlete. And some of these countries just don't give enough. And then they go to another country. Maybe the money isn't the same, but the amount of purchasing power they get with the money could be more, and the overall length of their contract could be good. So, for example, let's take someone like Magomed Ramazanov. I don't know what he's going to do in the future, but I definitely know that Bulgaria is going to be interested in bringing him in to eventually be a coach there. That's definitely going to happen. Now, a guy like that will make a lot of money as a coach, especially with, well, I wouldn't say a lot, but definitely much more money as a coach maybe there than he would in Dagestan. Plus, he has a lot of abilities to bring up the whole country's wrestling up again. You know, so this is definitely something that's there, and it also will get. It also, these guys coming to help coach helps build at the grassroots level with the kids, the wrestling culture, and overall, it's really good for wrestling, in my opinion. Now, how it affects the host country and region negatively. So there are some negative things about having people come from tier one wrestling countries in order to wrestle for your country. Let's say if your country is not such a good wrestling country, is that the amateur wrestlers who give their all inside that specific country now have very little chance to qualify into the national team and international competitions. Okay, so for example, let's say you're a wrestler in Puerto Rico and you have Sebastian Rivera come. There's going to be a hard chance, if you're not wrestling outside Puerto Rico, that you're going to be able to have the same pedigree and same training that Sebastian Rivera and understanding of wrestling Sebastian Rivera has. So if you're in his weight class, good luck, Buttercup. You're not going to make it. He is going to, right? Regional wrestling, also within every region that these wrestlers comes, it becomes much more competitive. To get a silver and a bronze medal become much harder. Definitely, we're not talking about gold medals. Like if we're talking, for example, Europe, usually it won't be that a secondary wrestler will go and win the gold. It can happen, like Ismail Musakayev, it happened, etc. But generally, to get the silver and bronze is much easier in order to qualify for other competitions. So let's say you're in the Euros, you go to the European Championships, you get number 4, number 3, which is bronze, or number 5. There's a chance that you can qualify to go to the World Championships now and go for the bigger competitions. And as well as, of course, if you have the point rankings, you can get there to the bigger competitions as well. And of course, every 4 years to the Olympics. Um, and overall, it makes it much harder to qualify for everyone within that region, etc. So let's take the Pan Americans, for example. There's basically two heavyweight countries within the Pan Americans, and those are, of course, U.S. and Cuba. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't other great wrestling countries there. There are. But for example, if you now have a lot of Americans going to other South American and Central American countries, and you're going to start having a much harder competition. And let's say, for example, let's say you're from Paraguay and you're a wrestler from there, and now you're going against a guy who's from Argentina. Okay, but that guy from Argentina is not from Argentina. He's from Iowa, and he just happens to have an Argentinian citizenship. Well, it's going to be much tougher to wrestle that guy from Iowa. Of course, this is an example, than compared to an Argentinian wrestler. Does that mean Argentina doesn't have good wrestling? No, it doesn't. But there is a reality to this. And this is definitely going to affect the whole region, right? Um, and also, these wrestlers come in can take a lot of attention from the national coaching staff of all local athletes. So, for example, let's say you are Puerto Rico and all of a sudden Sebastian Rivera comes. Now you have a chance to medal, right? So, what are you going to do? You're going to make sure that he has the best chance to medal possible, because if he medals, Puerto Rico gets in the record books as having that bronze medal, which he won. And also he's going to it's going to help them get more people into wrestling, who we said, and more money into the sport of wrestling, etc. So that is definitely something to look at it. Now, there's a saying that the bill comes at the end of every good meal. Okay. Now, there are negatives to allowing many wrestlers from other countries to compete after being naturalized into their second country. There's no going around it. This is not something new, because in the past decade, it's really started to increase and it's noticeable. Personally, I like it as about a decade or back. I like it. We almost had wrestling kicked out of the Olympics. Okay. And I think this will help build international wrestling with much more money coming in and more attention, because you get more exciting matches. And a lot of tertiary countries and secondary countries that don't do wrestling are now going to get their eyes onto wrestling. It's bittersweet, because, yes, of course, those amateur wrestlers within that country are going to suffer. But hopefully to increase the participation of youth within wrestling and thus growing the sports. Um, to close, these are my thoughts. It happened because I had a really nice guy in one of the comments write about this, because I commented and he said, "Hey, buddy, there are negatives." And he's right, there are. But I think right now the positives outweigh the negatives. We'll see in the next Olympics. We'll see in the next 8 years what happened. Maybe it'll grow wrestling so much that there's no need to take naturalized athletes anymore. That said, there's other countries that do it. Judo has it. Track and field has it. Most Olympic sports have it. It's just in wrestling you do feel it, because there is a very big difference. For example, let's say a guy from Dagestan or Sesha or Novosibirsk in Greco coming to train in a country that barely has wrestling. I mean, if you wrestled in that country, well, you're not going to make it. But then again, maybe you become a much better wrestler and help you build wrestling so the next future generation gets it. If you like this video, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. I know it's a bit boring. Look at my big face. If you see me doing tics, I got Tourette syndrome. Like and subscribe, like I said, and have a great day. and just keep on grappling. It's a great thing to do. Bye.